Greetings, everyone. So, my name is Denise Carew, and we'll be talking today and maybe some other days about sustainability. And today, more importantly, we're going to be talking about fashion, sustainable fashion, and the intersectionality between fashion and agriculture. So to my right, I have my now dear friend. We just met in person today, but we've been talking remotely. Chaney St Martin, sorry.
Yeah, right.
And we met through a colleague of mine, Steve Maximay, who's going to be here too today. Steve and I have been talking for about 2 years on this intersectionality and him trying to understand what I was doing and thinking, and vice versa, and so introduced me to Chaney and a few of his colleagues, and we had a very, very interesting conversation. And so I'll pass you on to him to tell you about his role with IICA,
Yes.
and also CCRAF, because CCRAF is where we might intersect what I do and what they do. So Chaney,
No problem.
what's up? You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
So Chaney St Martin, international specialist in water and soil management. I lead IICA's Resilient Agriculture Program for the Caribbean for IICA. IICA is an organization with a mandate for agriculture development and also rural well-being in 34 countries, right? And so as part of the initiative, we really provide technical cooperation to both public and private sector. The government, particularly the Ministry of Agriculture, are our main stakeholders, but definitely anything that could improve development, agriculture development, and also rural well-being, we into it. In terms of the CCRAF, one of our initiatives are what we call the CCRAF, which is really a forum, a knowledge to action forum. And we were just at the point of reinventing it so that we do more action, complementing the knowledge, and that is where we met, right?
Yeah.
And so just to give a little background on that, we would have pitched out that we need partners, mainly because we are firmly the believer that we cannot do it in silos. We need to have to address any sector problem, whether it's the agricultural sector, we do need the other sectors. So we send this out to get these innovative and these interesting points of conversion where persons that have these similar mindsets or initiatives would reach out. So this is why when we sent it out, within probably a space of 2 days or 3 days, you would have responded and just said, well, yes, I'm interested. And we had this wonderful conversation, which brings us here now.
Yeah, awesome. I was lucky. Synergy and energy, vibration, I think, things meet, at the right time. So,
I see we have Steve on the line here now.
Oh.
So.
Okay.
Yes.
in a moment. So, I think what I would just want to know let me just first say what I'm doing right now, and so one of the things I've been working on is a proposal for organizations on developing economic development hubs. Sort of like these hubs would be innovation spaces where anyone, young, old, who are interested in experimenting and researching in different sectors could have access. And we could build businesses out of them too. So it's about sustainability, circularity, and entrepreneurship. So when we had our meeting with your colleagues, it was so interesting, and I want to know what sparked your interest in what I was saying. I know you just said that you were looking for hopefully to attract people who are innovative and who have unique ways of doing things. And so tell me, what about that?
Yeah, it attracted me from multiple places, mainly because apart from the institution and looking at the context of the Caribbean, also looking at work that I would have done before, I've always been interested in resource use and optimization. How could we keep it the circularity that you mentioned? How we could lean off different things, the different stools or legs of the stool, etc., to get that support and that stability that we want to look at, and then pivot from there to there. So that has been my main thing. So once you said it, and my interest has always been holistic. And so once you said that, hey, this is what we are doing, this is what we want to do, we want to remove from the silo, we want to, resource was there, optimization, people focus, innovation was there. All of these things were really there into two important sectors. So based upon that, you just almost just spoke the language. I'm like, okay, yes, this ticks the box there. Yeah. So this was my really interest in what you're doing, and interest going forward as well.
I mean, it's interesting how so many people don't recognize that intersection, and that also the link with everything we do. You know, so when I tell people fashion and agriculture, like, and then I have to go into it's not people's fault. You know, information is just not really, you know, we're not schooled to understand how things work in their entirety. So, so then I'll go into, you know, so this shirt you have, why does it have that color? And then people, it was dyed. I say, okay, well, where did dye come from?
Right.
You know, so there's synthetic dyes, but there's always some element of an agricultural product, a plant, a herb, a seed, whatever, to make these things. And then that really sparks people's, minds about this connection. And so that would be in the hubs that I'm talking about, specifically the Fashion Innovation Hub. And I'm including Carnival in that, yeah? Carnival fashion, right? Wonderful, so we go into that a little bit. Is the experimenting with plants, right? So that we could come up with different dyes and colorings and to create brands, and also, you know, to talk about how we could market this and the whole entrepreneurial side of it, you know. So so I see Steve is here. Hi, Steve.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Welcome.
Thank you. You're hanging out with some good people there, Denise.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
No. I was referring to this facility staff member, right?
I just set it up for that angle. I know that was coming, so I just allowed it, fast forwarded for you to come at that.
No, Charlie. I mean, I was thrilled when Denise said that you and Nikhil, you know, just bought into it. Not that I was surprised, just thrilled. You know. So I'm all in. I think Denise would have, you know, said where I come into this whole thing. I mean,
so Steve is everybody. Steve. I've known Steve for many years, and he has been a real supporter of what I'm doing, and you know, I'm just so happy to be working with him. Steve is my mentor and colleague. I always have to say that. Mentor because I learn a lot, and because of the support I get, and colleague because we'll be working together on some interesting stuff. So
and the feeling is mutual. So, you know, but it's interesting. I mean, without putting all jokes aside, I mean, two of my favorite people in the sector in that frame right now. So I don't think it's any news for Chaney to know that, you know, I hold him in a particular high regard. You know, as one of the few people who could tolerate me over all these years. You know, we have shared panels. You know, and he has been my boss. You know. And we survived that, so. No. There's a progressive people out there, you know. He's like top of my list, so.
Right.
I'm surprised, and I'm glad to do anything in that space with it for you know.
So Steve, you're not allowing I see the flowers flowering, and you're not allowing the space for has to reciprocate in terms of you as well, right?
No.
It must be said those
I don't want it to sound incestuous.
No. But
can't be a part of Africa and then you say that.
No, man. Steve, it must be said, Thank you for the leadership as well.
No.
Both in terms of the climate, the agriculture, it must be said. When these doors were quiet and these conversations were not being had as yet, there was one resounding voice that says, hey, we need to think of it differently, etc. Even amongst the pressures and the doors not opening. So you have been that as well, and I want to thank you for that. I am not only going to say the younger generation, because you continue doing it, and so I'm going to leave it as that, because it must be recognized.
You're both most welcome. I consider it a privilege, and this is not about being modest or anything. I genuinely consider it a privilege, and anything I can do, now is the time.
Well, Steve, tell us a little bit about what you're up to these days, and I mean your passion, in agriculture. That's where we've been to. You may have other passions, of course, but the climate smart agriculture, and that kind of stuff. And
my thing has always been that agriculture is part of everything I'm interested in and everything I do. So even from the days when I was only interested in cars, ethanol came around, gasohol came around. So even in that sphere, I still had some way to talk about agriculture. My first car with leather seats had an agriculture component, the late Kent Vera, and I think I told you about this, Denise. He was doing tilapia skin leather and that type of thing, So I've always seen the link. I've always seen the link between sectors. When I think of sport, I think of nutrition. I wrote a book, as both of you know, back in 1991 on careers in agriculture, and regardless of your interests, whether you're interested in sociology, psychology, whatever, there's space for you in the agricultural sector, because it has to do with rural sociology, it has to do with use of natural resources, blah blah blah. So that it was just an easy journey for me. I'm just it wasn't any great vision or blessing with intellect. It was just so obvious to me, because I have O-level agricultural science, which is a very unique thing. O-level agricultural science at GC Cambridge. So this is before the CSEC era that Chaney will be smiling about. I'm talking about the days when you had O-level English and your passes were in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down to 7, and then there was unqualified, or unmarked. And I can assure you, I have a lot of partners who get 7 U's for O levels. So so that I always saw the link. The link with history is quite clear. So my understanding of where agriculture came from, plantation economy. I've been lucky enough to write, both serious journal papers and magazine articles on that transition. So it's just a part of my life. I really don't know how else to put it, and I see the links sometimes before other people see them, So with sport nutrition, I was behind a move in Jamaica for yellow yam, after Usain Bolt, made that passing comment, and I always saw those connections. Mm-hmm. So when you came up with fashion, that wasn't anything new. Cotton. Where do you think cotton comes from? I've worked with Sea Island cotton in Antigua and St. Kitts. So as I said, it was just all very natural.
Yeah. And now we're using so many other kinds of materials now globally, especially a lot in India, different parts of the world that are experimenting with banana bark and all kinds of pineapple and all of that. So, we'll get there. The possibilities or the opportunities in agriculture. You brought up the history and the plantation economy, and I was talking to Chaney about something I bounced up the other days. A woman who was a librarian at Scarborough Library, and she did a workshop.
Scarborough, Canada, or
Scarborough, Tobago.
Oh, sorry, no.
Sorry, I'm
There's a
sorry.
global
Yeah,
man.
but I go to Canada a lot. But she introduced me to the indigo plant, which grows as shrubs in Tobago.
Yeah.
And we had this conversation and sent me some information. And there are some sites where in the 1700s, this is what she told me, I haven't done this research, where there's evidence of the indigo plant being used to make dyes, to obviously export. So this is what she told me. So do you know anything? Was that part of that plantation economy? But not to bring up that really, but just just curious.
The thing that when I say we now, I mean as people in this part of the world, who are brought to this part of the world, we had a singular focus on the crop that they told us to grow, right? So so outside of sugar, tobacco, bananas, blah blah blah, we never used to take on too much of the other stuff, right? You have isolated pockets like the Garifuna and so, who would have gone into cassava and so, and the Kalinago, who would have gone into all the other uses. The fact that you could extract poison from it, the fact that you could go fishing with it, by just putting some of this stuff in the water and waiting for the fish to float up, stuff like that. But in terms of specific, the dyes and so for export, that was never a part of it. When I worked in Nevis, 40-something years ago, there used to be a very strong batik and tie-dye industry there that was based on natural products. So from that point of view, I can tell you about the resist method. I might sound as if I know what I'm talking about, So we can talk about resist method, and I understand tie-dye and all that. But in terms of it being a specific part of my interest, I'd be lying if I said that. I just happened upon it.
Right.
Yeah, but Steve, I'm glad that you mentioned that, man, and the similarities are real apparent. That whole agriculture as that melting pool, because I try to explain that. I mean, you have done a great job in explaining it. Because agriculture has the arts, the science, the culture, etc. It's like the melting pot for the connection towards everything. So it's very easy once you're in that to see the linkages through it. So I'm glad that you actually said it like that. And
and even in terms of agrotourism, which was one of the first links. I mean, full disclosure now, Denise's father and I had a company, agriculture company, and one of the first things that came up when we designed a new logo and tagline was that we positively impacted the fate of the Caribbean. Fate is spelled F-A-T-E, but it really stands for food, agriculture, tourism, and environment. And even in those days, I mean, that was some years ago, Denise was a wee one at the time, when we were talking about this type of stuff. And even then, it was very apparent to me that we are the stewards of the environment. So I couldn't understand when people with a geography degree came to be my boss in environment. I want to know, what you know about the environment, that we are stewards of the environment. I mean, everything that is biotic out there is under our control. Whether it be from a vet point of view, a plant pathologist point of view, an agronomist point of view, a soil scientist point of view, whatever it is. So the geographers are just, looking at the macro aspects of the thing, but the people who are really keeping the thing running is the agriculturists, and that was just so clear to me, that we are the stewards of the environment. Everything living out there, we are responsible for it. And when tourists come to our country, that's what they're coming to see. The built environment might be cool, That might be cool. I mean, those of us in Trinidad would know that, okay, NATOC, the National Thing Center looks like the Sydney Opera House, but it ain't.
Oh, Napa.
Napa
right.
looks like, I don't think any tourist is going to leave, anybody just to come to see Napa, right?
Right.
But when you talk about, some of the, the bamboo cathedral, this and that, and, the natural environment out there, that's what the tourism product is built on. And then you have culinary tourism. I did years of lecturing along with Ina Fortuné, who you know, Chaney,
yes,
right?
yes.
So that we had that agro-tourism thing locked down. When I say lockdown, literally locked down, because it was involved with culinary tourism, the whole aspect of ecotourism, and as I said, I mean, it's just, it seems like just opening up my heart and pouring out stuff that seems so natural. It's like bleeding, it just seems so natural to me.
Yeah. So I wanted to express a little bit about how I see the fashion sector, or when we say fashion, immediately people think, it's all this glitz and glamour, models walking down, but it's not that. That's just one small part of it. And some people call it the apparel industry.
It's about clothes.
Industry. It's about clothes. Right? Some clothes they might charge a higher price with because somebody, a particular person made it or whatever. Which I appreciate. I mean, I'm not knocking that, but the fashion sector, we all wear clothes. Every human being, most humans would wear even if it's a t-shirt you have on, right? And then people say, no, I'm not into this fashion thing. And I say, yeah, but you have on clothes. Whether you're anti-fashion or not, that is your statement, right?
You see, but everybody has a style. Your style might be, really, really casual. I mean, super casual, as in only jeans, same jeans.
Exactly.
And t-shirts. But that is your style. That's your brand. When people see somebody coming around the corner in a full suit, they won't think of you at all. Right? But that is not your brand. Your brand is, a t-shirt and V jeans, I'm not talking about jeans in general, V jeans.
So the fashion is what you're comfortable in. Whether it's high fashion or whatever. So there's a whole, the UN has just deemed the fashion sector as the sector where they could utilize that sector to help implement and push forward the Sustainable Development Goals. And I believe that that's the key reason, is that everybody wears clothes. You could, it could be statements. You could use, it's versatile. Textiles, right? So so that being said, the industry has been under a lot of scrutiny. Stuff I didn't know. I've been in fashion as a designer, thinker, marketer, all of the above, trainer for many years. And there's some things I didn't know. Some things that came to the fore, I think probably in the last 6 years or so. I think when COVID hit, people had time to look at stuff. So, what
are you talking about? Sweatshops, things like sweatshops.
Yeah, I mean, we always knew about sweatshops, but the supply chain and the the supply chain and all its inequities. So we're looking at the fashion sector. We get a chance to look at and to treat with not only the physical environment, but the human aspect of sustainability too. So.
Denise, sorry to interrupt you, but it's just that as it came to me. What about the impact of organizations like Peter and so? I mean, those using mink and and not wanting to use pelt substitute.
Well, they've been around for a long time, and I think
where does that fall into the whole scenario of what you're talking about? Because
so that's activism, right?
Those are textiles too, eh?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So Peter has been doing their work, and there is a huge shift in moving from animal skins and stuff to, especially where the skins are used without having eaten the animal, or there's that, or the
animals are raised for the pelts,
right. And or large scale farming where that the skins are used for making bags and whatnot. So they've done a great job. So there's a huge movement of bringing the agricultural part now to making leather with vegetables. Right. Making. Well, I don't know if we should call it leather. I'm not sure if leather.
I know. Sorry.
I don't know.
I hope you're not That just doesn't have a time limit on it in terms of, if we divert too much, we will lose content.
I
But
don't know how long we have.
I have a real problem with stuff like that. You
Yeah.
see, if you tell me you drink almond milk, I will pass you straight for life.
Agreed. I agree with that. You know?
I
had
haven't
to
seen
say the
anybody
name.
milking any almond, you understand? So don't come and tell me it's almond. Tell me you have a milk-like substitute. Tell me you have a
Yes,
high fat,
yeah,
a high
yeah,
fat,
yeah.
a lipid that you're going
I
to
agree.
use.
I
But
agree.
don't tell me tofu is meat either. Right,
Vegan-
Chani?
vegan leather.
I try not to do that, Chani.
No,
Don't tell me
man.
don't tell me tofu is meat either.
No,
Right?
no, Steve.
But I'm being very serious now, in the sense that even in nomenclature, we have to be very careful.
Yeah.
Because in the same way that people misconstrue what fashion means, a lot of times people misconstrue what concern for animals mean.
Right.
And this tendency to want to have substitutes,
Yeah.
genuine substitutes. It's a replacement. Instead of
It's a
using
replacement,
leather, I'm using this. I'm not
Yeah.
using an artificial leather. It's not an artificial leather. Because leather is something specific.
Right. Yeah.
It's something else you're using, right? You're using a milk substitute. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with people using sugar substitutes either. But they don't call it, they don't call it stevia sugar. You know what I mean? They say what it is. It is not sugar. It's a sweetener.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah,
So I
man.
think let's do some homework, three of us, and we go and figure out what we could call it. Because
Yeah. No, we have to be careful,
from an industry
because
standard, you want to, if you this is what we do, right? It may not be the
Yeah.
best way, but we categorize, right? So when you say leather, people know what leather, leather could come from various,
pelts and skins,
pelts,
yeah.
right? Pelts and skills, thank you. Skins.
Yeah.
And then you have all of this stuff happening with mushrooms, with the banana bark, with vegetable-based material.
And I have no problem with
yeah.
it. Don't get me wrong. I just want to be sure that the
No, I have a
nomenclature.
problem. I have a
Okay.
problem with it. I don't think we should. But the moment I said it, I was like, vegan leather. And I was like,
No,
what
no,
is
no.
that?
But I also agree that as well, Steve. And you may find that surprising. And I tell my colleagues, no, I'm very serious about it because there's a tendency of trying to make things like. So you move from one thing and you still want it to make it like.
I don't understand that. Why would you want a vegetable burger?
Right, and that's my thing.
Yeah.
This is not, and it's very important, and I'm glad that we raised that up because it
Yeah.
really shows you the psyche that is involved in it.
Yes.
Right, the
Yeah.
psyche that is involved in it, and more so now, how does that psyche translate into the action in terms of all what we're doing behind that? So that psyche, the nomenclature is very, very important. I do not want, if I eat tofu, it is not because I eating it as a replacement for meat.
Exactly.
All right?
Right.
I'm eating it there. It has the nutrients that is thing here. It is what it is. I cannot make it what it is not. It is not meat. So why should I go? All right?
Yeah.
And the same way, I do not use the meat as the reference point to validate the importance of tofu. Neither would I do something with almond and call it milk. For what? Milk
Yeah.
is milk. Just like wine. Wine technically could only be made out of grapes. Right?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
going to put a fruit and say that this is
Right.
this.
I hear you.
So
But I'm glad you brought that up because that is clearly the marketing
yes.
ploy, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's how you it's to get in the psyche of people.
Although you never get big lettuce flavored bacon, So, but I wouldn't go there.
But Stephen,
It's only in one direction. It's usually only in one direction. You're trying to get stuff that tastes like meat. We're not trying to get anything that tastes like vegetables, which I find discriminatory, to be quite honest. You know what I mean? So,
but that just goes to show so we're getting into the marketing aspect now of things,
Yeah,
branding,
of course.
which is important because it affects the fashion sector too.
how you
This is
brand it is what is going to make
How
the
you
difference.
brand it, and also how the techniques that are used to control people, really to literally make people, and this is not conspiracy theory, this is our facts, they hire marketing firms to create the looks, the feel and color and all of these things to manipulate people. So this is why fast fashion is where it is today. It is, and so much so that, it is almost bringing well, not a halt to, but it has affected the industry so much that, you know, regulations are now to be passed. I mean, they've waited really too long for that. But, you know, where, you know, young people, even older people, this is, you know, the idea that I have to wear this and I could change it in 24 hours. I could you know, I could wear this today, and 2 days, don't bother, 2 days from today I could buy another one. And this is the messaging. It's there if you look at some of the stuff. This is the messaging, and most people don't know what that means. You know?
I want to segue there because I think it's very important. This when you started speaking, I'm hearing Steve. And Steve, I want you to come in here, if you may, because there's some important work that you have been doing, not just with the greenwashing kind of thing, but also with the CSAC, your kind of thing there, because I think this is foundational and important. We have been talking about agriculture sector and fashion, but what are the things that we put in place? What are existing that we could, when we build in that foundation or these synergies, that we ensure that kind of cleanliness, so to speak, that purity there. So that we don't get railroaded into a different direction. Yeah,
I'm with you. I'm with you. In other words, you don't want to be in the midst of working on banana, have somebody take it and go a synthetic route, you know, with some petrochemicals, you know, and then say it's almost as good. Well, it's the same thing as this banana product.
I believe that. Whatever we do from the ground, you know, from the beginning, from design mode, from ideation mode, actually, that we have to consider the end, you know, the life cycle of a thing, you know, from that thinking of it, and what we would like that to be in a couple of generations, you know, and that's not all. It's not so difficult. We could also look at some of the history, you know, that we've had, some people, what we've come from, like we were talking about indigo dyeing, and, you know, this is stuff that's still used today, you know. How do we position ourselves in the market? Because I'm not an airy-fairy person. I like to understand things from a business perspective too, and how we do business. Is it business as usual, or is it going to be a different model that we set up that we could maybe tap from the things that we've had historically in our country, you know, cooperatives, collectives. These things have worked well. They're still around. Stuff like that.
But
you know?
if Denise and Shani, Denise, have you spoken to Shani about some of the other uses of textiles that we talked about? Like how we are going to protect agriculture workers in this climate change?
We didn't. We
didn't
yet, but he did have a copy of the proposal that I did. He was just looking at it a little while ago. I have it. I don't know if you've seen it. You seen me?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Right, so he was just looking through.
Some glossy looking
I know,
thing.
right?
Some glitzy looking marketing thing, you know that.
That we just spoke about.
We had a living, though. We had a live.
Some PR person come up with it. No. I mean, to tell you, Chani, how this thing is just so revolving all around me. My wife is the deputy director of posts here in Grenada, right? And I mean, like 8 years ago, I was telling her, I said, look, you know, your postal workers, your postal delivery people are going to get stressed out with these new heat waves and things that we have here, you know. And I mean, everybody say I have goat mouth, eh? I mean, you Chinese would know what goat mouth mean, right? And it came to pass, I mean, you know, there was a story written by my good friend Wesley Gibbings, where the postal delivery lady fainted.
Right.
I mean, in these conditions, you cannot have people delivering mail at 10 o'clock in the day, especially not wearing the stuff that they're wearing now.
Right.
We have to get into breathable fabrics. We have to find ways to have some sort of moving tent that a field worker could say, you know, look now, man, I have to go and, you know, do some harvesting or whatever in this particular area, but I should have a tent, you know, or some kind of covering on wheels, because people are going to drop down in the field, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're going to continue dropping down in the field.
Right.
You know? So I don't know, I thought I
Charlie,
wasn't sure.
what do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
No. Yeah, I totally agree with that, Steve. I'm thinking of it in terms of the integrity, because if we are looking at, and the circularity and the revolving element is already there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of, if we're looking at that kind of nexus between the fashion, whether it is what you just described there, or even from the production aspect, as an input coming into fashion, right? And that's why I wanted Steve to come in there. There's a certain integrity from a safety point of view, from a health point of view, that you'd want to at least have that main production system in terms of whether it's the agricultural production system or a production of a particular crop, that you want to ensure that integrity is there, so that when it passes on to the next stage of whether it is textile or dye, etc.,
Right.
you have that safety there, that health aspect there. That
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
this is why I want Steve to come in on that, because I think, and you would have mentioned something, it's not just the issue of the health and safety. It is marrying or looking at that matrix between the economics of it, the whole issue of the climate part of it, even the energy aspect of it,
Right.
the water
Yeah.
use aspect
Absolutely,
of it, etc.
yeah.
So this is why I wanted to probably segue here, Steve. If you could just speak about that.
So I don't know, Chani, I don't know if Denise told you where I was earlier this morning. The permanent Brazilian mission to the World Trade Organization asked the Caribbean private sector organization to provide them with a sustainable agriculture and trade expert, right? But because of my background in trade, and there is an EPA, and you remember Vincent Ankins, Chani? You know him? Right. Well, so when the EPA was a big thing, we were all working on it together. I have my SPS background is because I was a plant pathologist, in a different life. So they asked me to do it, long and short of it. So this thing, I did a session today, that just finished at midday, on challenges and opportunities surrounding sustainable agriculture and multilateral trade. Now you see how I get my fingers into all kind of thing, because I feel I know. But coming out of that was this whole business about our understanding of sustainability. We in the Caribbean, we understand sustainability, because if we didn't, we wouldn't have been around still,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we realize that sustainability is now the coin of the realm. Everybody and their brother talking about sustainability now. We know that is a coin that has two sides. Yes, obviously the opportunity side, and there's the challenge side. And how we navigate this new fashion nexus that we're talking about will have to do with that.
Yeah.
With every innovation, there'll be a consequence, a negative consequence. Positive.
That's
How do we balance it off? How do we make sure that we don't promote the negative side of it? We don't have people unsustainably producing the cotton that we want to use, or the bananas that we want to use, for that matter. And there's this overall concept that I've also been drawn into, because again, Chani, this is just a representation of my age, So I don't want you to feel it in a way. How you come up with all that? But I didn't come up with.
We don't practice
I was
ageism
just, I was
here.
just a wrong Chani. And that's a wrong syllable. Like, it's hard not to pick up something after 69 years. It's hard, right? So what I've picked up over the years, and I was able to work with Dr. Webb and these guys, is this whole concept of One Health. And One Health has now morphed, not just in terms of the health of animals affecting the health of people, but it's now become planetary health, where we understand that the health of the environment. And when we start working with soil microbes, and so I've been able in my from my PSLM perch in soil care to be able to talk about the links between soil microbiome and gut microbiome, and the fact that there are a lot of production systems that we say are soilless, and when we say that the nutrient content is the same, which is suspect. But that's a bigger discussion. That's a bigger discussion, right?
Suspect.
But the idea of the integrity of soil microbiome, and the fact that they have to match the microbiome in your gut for you to get the full nutrient, transfer from what is in the plant to what you can access. So I'm saying that all of that has to be taken into consideration. So we're not just talking about health from a human health point of view, but it mustn't it mustn't negatively impact this whole concept of planetary health or environmental health. So in other words, we don't want a byproduct from the dye, from the indigo dye, to go somewhere and
Exactly.
do something funny with fish, you know?
Well, that's the whole concept. That's the whole
I mean,
thing.
Chani, it sounds as if it's far-fetched, but it's
No,
It's
no,
not,
no.
everything is connected, you know?
Yeah, everything is connected. You have to think a lot.
So
Part
Steve,
of our responsibility, think about the consequences,
correct.
and so more or less follow it down the road, you know? Literally down the road,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, Steve, you give the example here, and this is what I was alluding to, because, you know, it's one thing, you have to have the checks, and the checks would be, what are the checks on the agriculture? Because you could have a position where, let's say we get everything right on the agriculture point of view, that we tick the box there, it's sustainable. But when it goes to that nexus in terms of the fashion, that is not the ball is dropped. So we want to look at that sustainability and that health that you speak of along the continuum, along the circularity of it. Because I think, and that is what essentially I'm hearing from you here, because of the relationships, the inherent relationships between that. And I think some of the work that you would have done in terms of trying to investigate that or trying to proof that and trying to have a system that could account for that is very important. And likewise, I think as we move in that direction, the systems that you would be thinking of in terms of that circularity would also be very important, not just from a production or marketing point of view, from that grand scale that we talk about. How does that look for planetary health?
Yeah.
I actually think it starts with plants and the soil. That's to me. By the time the stuff gets in whatever it is we using gets to the fashion stage, get it from that point to, let's say, actually dyeing products and
or becoming a textile
and production. Yeah, that wholesomeness has to come from way before. So hence the reason why we're here together, because and this is what I saw, is that how can I make a dye how can I make a garment, bring a garment into the world like a baby that is circular, that is sustained, that doesn't cause harm to the environment. So it really starts from soil level. So climate smart agriculture, for example, how do we, if we were to set up a system, this hub that I'm launching soon, all the materials have to come from good soil. Materials like turmeric or aloe or coffee or whatever. So that's where the big. We can't have one without the other. I cannot have a sustainable fashion brand in its the full sense of the word. Without having a proper agricultural management system in place.
Because what I'm hearing, and I know you're kind of concentrating on the dyes and so on, but I'm even more focused on the textiles, the actual fabric material, right? And there we go back into real old-fashioned botany. It's fibers we're talking about. So any plant that produces a fiber, there's a possibility that we can put those fibers together, and do something. Or any animal that is producing a thread, like a silk moth, those are the animals and plants that will focus primarily.
But those have to be healthy, right?
But that's what I was coming to. And how they are raised or grown, and how they are disposed of or recycled, because nothing is disposed of. It's all going to be recycled. It can be recycled in a landfill and cause harm, or it could be recycled in a compost heap and be beneficial. So
is composting the same as recycling? Just to cut you off a little bit, I just want to. Composting, is composting recycling, or are they two separate things?
It's recycling of the nutrients.
Okay.
In other words, the nutrients that are locked in the plant in one form, you're getting it back now in a different form, right? So it's recycling in the sense of the nutrients, but not in terms of the actual material. You're not recycling. In other words, you're not using over the lettuce leaf, but over the components that are in lettuce, right?
Yeah.
So you would know as a manufacturer that, you have your full product life cycle and blah, 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 and all the fancy terms. But in agriculture, we deal with it differently. We tend to think of it as what I would have described maybe 15 years ago as a loop value chain, which is now calling circularity, right? Same thing.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
The fact that I always wanted to know what happens to the peel from the dasheen when somebody peels the dasheen and boil it or whatever. What happens to that peel? Where does that go? I mean, I remember when I lived in Trinidad, fellas used to watch me like a real madman, because at that time, maybe about 15, 20 years ago, a lot of fellas used to be selling corn on the side of the highway. And they'll park the pickup and they'll have these they have one long stalk of actual corn plants. So you can know when you're passing that, a guy there selling corn. But then they'll sit down on the tree of the pickup, chuck all that corn, and throw it at the side of the road. And I remember stopping fellas and telling them, wait now, boy, that's your fertilizer, you're just throwing away there, And of course, some of the fellas would find you fast, that ain't none of your business, I mean? You work in sanitation or what, I feel the dumb thing outside. But I lived long enough to see things that were discarded and became precious items. I remember the days when you could have gone Manzanilla, pack up a pickup, and take up as much coconut husk as you want, because nobody was planting anthuriums. But once that anthurium trade started, everybody from Singh Brothers go down on that Manzanilla stretch had big signs. No, pilfering of material, because the thing had value now. It's not just coconut husk now.
Yeah.
It's a valuable input. And the same thing with the corn leaves. I mean, I'm glad to say that they don't do it again. I mean, either because, public health or somebody interfere with them, but now they keep it on the tray and they take it back to the farm, and compost it or do what, or they feed it to livestock, anything. I mean, it was just so wasteful for me, that I felt I had to stop and tell people about it, and as I say, you get the odd guy who will, hey, that makes sense. And then there'll be the odd guy who say, mind your business. I mean, you know how these plants come?
Well, when you were talking about the dasheen peel, that goes in my compost bin in the back of my house.
Well, right.
So,
and
just saying, I do composting.
We have a project here in Grenada where we use it for, it's part of a biogas digester in a home for disadvantaged kids, So
Nice.
As I say, we're not reinventing anything, We're just making sure that we line up everything and complete the circle, complete the dots in the circle.
Exactly. And we just have to think a little harder. I met someone recently, something I went to, I can't remember exactly what it was, but chatting, you chit-chatting, and so I asked the gentleman, I said, so what you just do? What we into? And so he told me he was part of Caribbean packaging, and then we were just chatting, and I said, so what you all doing about sustainability issues and things like that? And he was so excited to talk about it. I was really happy to hear the kinds of things that this company was doing. It's a pretty big company, and he brought up composting. And he said, I really believe that that's where we should go. I said, yeah, well, that's what we have to do. I said, throw some food waste in that, or some sargassum. And he was like, I have to meet you to talk again. Let's talk. And I said, yeah, of course, we'll talk soon. So anyway, that was really, it was interesting for me to hear that, and encouraging, that there are people, companies who are, taking up the mantle, because it's not easy to transform, It's not easy for an entity to transform, right?
Yep.
Especially if you don't have a strong enough incentive, financial incentive.
Well, exactly.
Some of them have it, in the sense that, it's costing them so much to try to dispose of this stuff.
Right, so it's better.
Give them a legitimate way to, to make some money off it, fine. But there are other sides of that sustainability coin where it means spending more money, or, hiring staff and...
But with regulations, I think that people are going to have to do it at some point, because we don't have a choice. Anyway, so sorry.
That's
I have some a little bit of data from different companies, McKinsey, Caribbean Export Development. And so this is a little excerpt from Caribbean Export Development Company. It just says, the Caribbean faces unique environmental and economic challenges that necessitate significant investments in sustainable industries and infrastructure. Sustainable practices offer a critical opportunity for economic diversification, investing in sectors such as renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and circular industries that help mitigate these risks and promote economic stability. One more.
Yep.
The sustainable fashion market size is projected to grow from US 8.04 billion in 2024 to USD 58.03 billion in 2035. I wonder if I'll be alive in 2035. I should be.
No, but I find that easy to believe. Without being a fashion expert or anything.
Right.
What I'm wondering though, Shani, where do you see you or IICA, really putting a handle on this, I mean, your official title is Soil and Water thing, right?
Yeah.
If it's in the context of how we utilize soil and water as part of a productive process, what would be the selling points for you to be able to integrate this into your regional work? I mean, as a very practical matter,
Yeah,
in case Lloyd call you, Lloyd, Lloyd is right. In case Lloyd pick up the phone and ask you and say, Shani, I hear you talking about passion on some podcast. What does that have to do with your? That's a very real concern.
Just your thoughts on.
No.
Don't get me wrong, that's a very real concern.
Yeah.
Because stuff like that happens, right?
Right, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, there are several entry points, Steve, and it's not anything new. I'll take an example from what you would have mentioned, the nexus between agro and tourism, right? IICA has had a long history of creating these synergies in terms of seeing beyond that, but not just from a talk basis, but from action to the ground as it relates to how does that impact on the rural livelihood, right? So that has been always a cornerstone for IICA even before I joined IICA. Okay. And so from that point, if there's an avenue for that, IICA is into innovation as well. That hub that you spoke about, Innovation Hub, IICA has programs on that. And so that is a fit. IICA is involved in actually setting up innovation hubs, not only in Latin America, Jamaica, and other places as well. IICA has always said that it's not just about agriculture. We are looking at this, the nexus. What is there? How could we improve that? So it's not a hard sell. It's actually a natural fit that if there's innovation, there's rural there, there's a potential for better production, more sustainable systems, etc. Then whatever comes along with it in terms of whether it is from a soil water angle or from multiple angles, there's a trade angle, there's that angle. So it is really not far from what IICA does. It is to realize that integration there and how we could support something like that, similar to what we would have done with agritourism, and these are the things that are seemingly outside of that ambit there, but still has a very strong rural well-being focus. So this is where I think it would come through one of the ways that we could come through.
I'm glad you brought up the rural element because
what IICA has referred to in years past, and I think they still use it, the rural milieu. That whole, everything that happens in the rural setting because we impact everything that happens out there.
And just before you come into this, but this is how we met, and we were saying that earlier on. One of the things that we want to do, and we have been doing, and we have the initiative, the Seacraft on the Road.
Right.
We are very much serious about reducing that gap between awareness, knowledge, and action on the ground, right? And so through initiatives like that, because these are the stakeholders involved, it is a natural fit.
Yeah.
Like you said, everybody wears some kind of clothing. We at IICA, we're very, very, very particular about the voice and the safety of farmers. All the farmers, whether it's women, youth farmers, And so if fashion is something that allows that to happen, and I'm talking about fashion in the health safety point
Yeah,
of view,
yeah.
Yeah.
breathable textiles like you spoke
Protective
about,
textiles. I mean,
reducing the
breathable fabrics.
stress,
Yeah.
and that
Right.
is something that naturally fits within
Yeah.
the mandate of that.
Yeah, we could be the first to make something and patent it and sell to the world. But so I was going to talk about the rural aspect. That is really important to me as well. And the team that pulled together to work with me to bridge that divide, to narrow that divide in terms of which sectors, are for which people. And fashion, even in our space here in Trinidad, Trinidad and Tobago, we tend to do a lot of things fashion in Port of Spain or in South.
Yeah.
The only there was one incarnation, I think, was the was it the early 90s or late 80s, boy, with under the NAR regime, when they had the cottage industries and there were all these cottages and we were doing all sorts of wonderful things in fashion and food and all those other things. But
That was between 1986 and 1990.
right. So it's a different time now, but it's a similar principle that I'm leaning to because it worked. I experienced it. I was in it. And it really harnessed a lot of the creative people in the different areas, and also trained more people. So we have a whole lot of people in Trinbago that could do a lot of things, but they are just underutilized.
Right.
And also, who says that fashion is a Port of Spain thing? Like, where, creativity, geography,
Rich people thing.
or rich people thing, right? That it is a legitimate and a big business. There's opportunity to create brands and to keep it. See, people always talk about scalability and people all about scale. We have enough people to produce. I'm like, keep it small, small,
And
manageable, and exclusive, or inclusive, exclusive. Whoever could buy it. Whoever could buy it, right? So, so that, and I'm excited about that because I feel like, I could go to Toko and find some young people who could create, Creativity is to me is something to be harnessed, and even from idea stage, where people are from the scientific perspective. You might have a young person, or even older. I don't like the ageism thing. Anybody could do it, but who likes science?
Yeah.
And they want to experiment with colors and how to use. And I keep talking about the dyes and stuff. You know why? Because it's a low-hanging fruit. It's just low-hanging fruit. It's not like
you don't want to get.
I don't want to talk too much. The textile stuff. It's that's a big thing. I don't feel it's big. I feel I know how to harness that sector. And even just to start from a simple product like a handbag, for example. They do it in parts of Africa, India. So it's nothing. That we have to reinvent. What we'll have to do is just add or flet it or invent.
Yeah.
But now I've forgotten what I was saying exactly. What I wanted to
I wanted to come in there. Yeah, that's a good point.
Please do.
Because I want to take you back to when we would have had the meeting and you would have really presented the idea. Because even the proposal that you'd have shared, I think it's fantastic in terms of the thought process and how you're looking at it. And I wanted to kind of segue into that. You mentioned the different innovations, etc. I felt it was really good. And Steve would have just asked, okay, so how do we tie into that? Right? And the question for me is more than how we tie into it, because there's an immediate tie, a natural tie, like you said. The issue is how do we said it earlier on, action this.
Right.
And allow the action to create that rippling that is needed for sustenance. Right? And so I wanted you to perhaps just take a little time and present that, the concrete kind of thinking in terms of the hubs that you're thinking of, that link, how you're seeing it in the conceptual stage. Not too much detail.
But spot boy.
and what it would take? What it would
take?
Yes.
In time and finances.
Okay, so I did so what I did, there are about eight potential hubs, but they're all linked. And I selected the fashion / carnival fashion, which we haven't talked about yet, the carnival aspect. as a model hub, because for me it would be easier for me to implement that, because I have a lot of experience in it. I know a lot of the players in the space.
And their production spaces already there.
And their production spaces, so that would just be easier for me to run with. Of course, I'd have to link with people who are comfortable with chemistry and the biology of plants. So we'll have to, it is the hub that I think we could use more of the different sectors, it is easily multidisciplinary, So having said that, so the setup would be, first of all, it's going to cost about maybe $500,000 Trinidad dollars, or a little under that, and that is to establish some equipment, some training, consulting, some marketing, brand, creating a brand, one or two brands, have actual product for sale. So it is, and it will include all of that kind of training to entrepreneurship, the actual production, things like that. And so that at the end of it, we want to have a functioning small business that could regenerate itself, that could grow and develop depending on what the stakeholders want to do. So the people involved in the first hub, let's say a hub might be 20 people or more. I haven't done that detail yet, but I'm thinking no less than 20. Could be less, but it depends. And you have cohorts, right? So it will be, you'll always have people, training, and you'll have different, like maybe 1, 2, 3 tiers, right? So
Denise, don't let me break your train of thought, but I'm really fascinated by the carnival production space, because that is a space that is, when I say is well defined. People know that they have a particular time frame to produce these costumes, or the use of dyes or fabric or what have you, and you can have it on an annual cycle in the same way that you're describing it here, right? Now, I know a little bit about mass production, and what I like about that idea is that is a self-contained space with its own marketing.
Right.
So in other words, you could be a section in a band. You don't have to worry about the rest of the marketing. You just have to worry about that section that deals with fabric that we are concerned about in this hub. So I just wanted to stick that in to say that, to me, that seems to be the
starting
readiest fit.
I mean, thanks for bringing
that up. And it has a market outside of Trinidad.
Absolutely. But we still depend. We would be dependent. We have to lure the interest the band leaders to have us do it. I've been working on that. I'm hoping that I shouldn't call names, but there's a person who I think would be. It seems very, very interested. I've been courting him for about 2 years. But I think that once people like to see things happening.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
They see it happening, and they see, that it's not at ideation stage. Is that you're producing, you're out there, you have your own look and image, you have followers, you have.
You must have a section launch. You must have a section.
Right, and you have to say, well, how many people you could bring to the table, girl? Why? Is it only because it's sustainable? No. The bottom line is how much you could bring to the table as well.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a great industry to influence and to expose even the young people or older people or whoever wants to be part of this, part of the hub. There's there's the whole idea of reuse and recycle. All that would come into the training. We will talk about things like that. There are companies that, for example, there's a T-shirt company that don't know what to do with their scrap. They will stuff it in things. They've been trying to figure that out, and so there's a conversation I'm having. That they have a lot of bands now that it's a text, it's a material. Is to sit down and figure out how can I use this material to make X, or how can I create something out of this material
and repurpose it or something.
Repurpose. So we have this repurposing aspect of things too, right? So we are trying to create a fully sustainable closed loop system, but at the same time, there's a whole bunch of fabric that out there, textiles that are there, and so we want, so what do we do in the meantime? In the meantime, we try to keep this stuff in circulation for as long as possible by repurposing, and that's one of the things that we could do for the agricultural sector to make these coverings that I showed you in the picture there.
So this is what I'm seeing, Denise, and for me, this is, I know we had to wrap up a little bit here, but I'm seeing very clearly, for example, and I want to perhaps leave with that, for us to very clearly identify, just like we would have met that synergy, who else needs to be at the table to make it happen.
Right.
IICA is very clear in terms of we provide technical cooperation services. So we have some of the expertise in terms of the production aspect, agriculture production, rural thing. We have bioeconomy as well.
Right.
So I could see us fitting real nicely there in terms of working with the farmers, making sure that this is an opportunity that they could benefit from, etc. I'm hearing, as you're talking about that particular segment, there's an opportunity for the arts, carnival, art culture as well. So we have the potential of IICA is there, you are there. Who else are we making that call out to kind of come in that will make it happen? Well, Steve is there. So
I was going to say Steve Maximay.
Yes.
But well, I'm going to appeal to the state, right? Because I feel that it's within their reach, in terms of resources, and certain kinds of resources would be like that we would need to make it, really thrive. Would be location, space.
Starting with a space,
definitely space.
It's kind of the low-hanging fruit that.
Right, that's low-hanging fruit. So because we know that location, rentals and stuff are exorbitant this round. Reaching out to stakeholders, to potential participants in the schools and that kind of thing, because they will have the capacity to do that on their websites and whatever. Access to markets, because we have institutions like Export TT and Fashion TT and Taba. I don't know if Taba exists still, but
Taba.
They don't exist. So who replaced? Who's the? Was it NAMDEFCO? And I don't know. Some kind of agricultural based marketing thing. So, and I'm speaking to. I'll be sending these. To individual ministers too, because they may have a mandate to do different things. Right. So, but and there's private corporation, right? So, I don't want to wait for the state to say yea or nay. I would really love to launch as small as possible, whatever I can bring to the table. Who knows? I might be really lucky and get some kind of sponsorship, to at least start a model and take
what time frame you set for that?
I wanted to start yesterday, but
I know, but I mean,
I would say realistically, it would be January, in the new year.
Okay. See why I ask you that is because, as you well know, by September, or long before September, most of these mass bands have,
Oh yeah, if you're thinking about Carnival itself.
So January is January.
No, for the hub, I still have I still may have an opportunity to do something as an individual, as a designer, right, with a band, but because I don't have the individuals yet in the hub. I don't have that going, so it wouldn't be. It would just be me and my.
Yeah, well, you could use that. You could use that as the model. As the model.
I'll get a couple of people to work with me, from the community, but.
Just to segue
let's see
in
if it
there,
happens.
as you were speaking, because I even forgot that the Caribbean Biodiversity Fund, there's a part of it that is called the advancing circular economy system.
Oh, nice.
Presently, the calls are open for projects.
Okay,
right,
great.
in different countries.
Yeah.
They look at from agricultural waste or agricultural products to.
Yeah.
So there might be an opportunity to have that conversation with them because we've seen the synergies. They're interested in circular economy. They have the environment, the business,
Right,
the impact
right.
rural. So
Right.
it may be an opportunity to look out for the call, but more importantly, have the conversation with them to see if that is something that.
Yeah. Well, if you could send me that information, that would be good.
Yeah.
Contact. So I'm applying for grants as well. You know.
Great.
But I've been, really focusing on trying to get the right team to work with me on an NGO level, because we've just formed an NGO. Well, it's forming. The Ministry of Legal Affairs keep rejecting all the names. I don't know why, but hopefully we'll get. So I'm just waiting on that, and then this is going to go out, and then I'm on to doing some grant applications. So
Great.
yeah,
Cool.
that's it. So any final words for now, for today?
No. I mean, as I said, as I say, I'm not surprised. Just thrilled, that Chaney and Nikita picked it up so quickly, and just
Yeah.
dive right in. I think that one of the hubs, one of these agro fashion, whatever hubs, could be formed, even before we get, the full
Yeah.
machinery in place.
Absolutely.
And we go the route of a model,
Right.
just,
Exactly. Yeah.
one picture of one costume, one picture of, just one picture of one circular
Yeah.
path, Okay, this started off as a jumbie beet seed, and this is where,
Yes.
this is where it's now, right?
Yeah.
This started off as a so-and-so plant. This is where it ended up.
Well, I'm
Right.
hoping for the launch that I would include a designer, a mass
That's what I'm
designer.
asking you. When is the launch? That's
Oh,
what I was-
launch is the 29th of November.
Yeah, nice.
Right. Okay. I knew there was something
So
planned for this year,
we
right.
would have visual, we would have that, but the actual implementation of
Right.
of that model,
No, that's
so I chatted with her maybe about just after Carnival, last Carnival, and I haven't gotten back to her yet, but I'm hoping that she would say yes, because her costume this year, and she actually designs for a major band.
Right.
And she's been doing some really interesting pieces out of reusable things that she could reuse, and so I found that interesting, and I like her style. I have known her for a long time, so I'll probably include what she's doing this year, and maybe we could tweak something together and have that as a on display, because the launch is going to be more like that, like some kind of exhibit. I'll have some stuff on sale for as a maybe auction or something. People could buy their gifts for Christmas. and that was a nice plug. Eh?
Yes.
And so it's mostly an exhibit, it's a launch, and to introduce people to the concept, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whose phone is that? Is that mine?
And the thing is that, whenever I think fashion, as I said, only fibers come to mind, because I'm that limited. Yeah. But I remember seeing people wear bamboo.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about fancy stripped down bamboo. I'm talking about, narrow strips of bamboo made into craft. And,
Right.
and people wearing it, literally wearing it. And I'm not just talking about wearing it as jewelry, I'm talking about wearing it as apparel, what I mean? And headwear, and and it just struck me that that there are so many possibilities. We just have to take time and see it.
All right.
Yeah.
So I just want to give Chaney a minute.
Few last words,
few last words.
No,
and,
just thank
well,
you.
last words
And
today.
give us a Lucian, and we need a Lucian perspective too. I think up to now you've tried to play this Caribbean scientist, but there are some very specific Lucian things that I'm sure you could come up with, because I know Denise doesn't know this, but Chaney was a successful farmer before,
Yeah.
Okay.
Before he took academia, even more seriously than he was at the time.
Right,
So,
right.
There are very few persons that know that. Steve knows that.
yeah.
Yeah. No. I just, like I said, I thank you very much. Yes, and Lucia does have it in terms of the arts, the specificity of it as well. That's also, even what you just spoke about. Steve spoke about it in terms of what was happening in both St. Kitts and also to some extent in Antigua as well. St. Lucia had a similar thing. I talk about, we have from not just the culture, you had the Udovik studio that was up there that had some of that as well. But to close off, I just wanted to say that, I really like this here, not just for the point of the wholesomeness of it and the innovation of it, and I could see very clearly how it could benefit or add to what is already there in terms of the farmer, the persons, the rural persons, and definitely it is something that I think we would want to support as part of Seacraft on the Road, to actually support that. And again, it was nice conversing with you and also Steve, as always.
Yeah.
And then that's it. Less, more or less, we will be able to support you in the grants moving forward. Let's continue that to see how we could position and get that there. And let's try to make it happen as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So my final words, thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here. I enjoyed the conversation. It was awesome. I look forward to working with you and continued support from you, Mr. Maximay. and also that we could actually work on a project. I think
Mr. Maximay,
just so you get a Mr. there.
That would be awesome. So thank you all for coming, and bye for now.
Bye, Steve.